This is the blueprint to become a millionaire coach in 2024. And I'm going to walk you through the levels and steps to get there. Now, step one, the first thing you want to think about is identifying the problem you're trying to solve. And where I like to start with this is trying to identify where were you 3 to 5 years ago? What problems did you have to solve and did you have to overcome? So if I look at myself, for example, I was overweight as a teenager from 13 to 17, and then started to get into better shape, became PT at 18. I actually failed as a personal trainer, didn't do very well with that. I didn't really like it and didn't like training people in person. And then went into becoming an estate agent. I was an estate agent from 21 to 27. And then I set up CJ Coaching, my online training business. But my entire life changed when I first got in shape when I was 26. And then what I did is I started to document what I was doing. And then I taught people in my fitness business how I solved my problem of being out of shape and how I got in really great shape. And this is a key thing that you need to understand, is all you need to really focus on at the beginning is helping the younger version of yourself. But there's a couple of key caveats we're going to talk about today that's going to make a big difference to make sure you really nail this first part of the process down. Because if you don't do this, you're completely screwed, and it's not going to make sense when you come on to step number 5, which is probably the other part that's most important you get integrated in, that's going to have the most impact to your life. When we think about talking about helping a younger version of ourselves, what we want to talk about is the hero's journey. So if anyone hasn't read any of the books from Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, if you read .com Secrets, Traffic Secrets, all of his books, he talks about the hero's journey. Now, who is the hero in the business? You watching this. Your job is to be the hero to someone. My job is to be the hero to a younger version of myself. The reason I set up 7-figure scaling systems is to create the solution for what I had 4 or 5 years ago when I was trying to get started with my online coaching business. When I first got to 30K a month in my coaching business, when I first got to 50, when I first got to 100, when I first got to 200. And that's why I can help anyone, because I've been through all these ranges and I know all the problems you're going to come across as you try and scale the business. So think about your own hero's journey. What have you overcome? So examples of this might be maybe you were overweight as a child, maybe you were the skinny dude who struggled to build muscle, maybe you were a lady who had an eating disorder, maybe you suffered with depression, maybe you wanted to get in shape to get girls because you couldn't get a girlfriend when you were younger. Maybe you had low testosterone, you overcame it. Like, what is the thing that you've done in your life and you've overcome that you see as a big achievement that you've overcome? That's basically what you want to do in terms of identifying a problem you need to solve. So one of the most important things we want to talk about as well is if you're trying to solve a problem, you don't want to be solving problems for people who are 17 years old. Why? So if you're looking to try and generate a revenue and we're trying to make $1 million, probably not the quickest way to do that, right? So a saying I really like is if you solve rich person problems, you can charge rich person prices. So one of the easiest things I work on with a lot of clients when they come to us is actually aging up their content sometimes. So a lot of people are making advice on how to get like bigger arms and get jacked and shredded, go to Ibiza to pick up chicks. Okay, there's a market for that. That was how I started my fitness business, because you don't know what you don't know. But the reality is that when you actually start to grow the business correctly, you'll find that when you get actual momentum with it and you're actually targeting the right people, you can charge higher price points, which is one of the steps we're going to come on to later on. So some of the best niches and problems you can solve, I'm going to break down for you now. So in terms of problems to solve, let's give some examples. So the best market, and I probably only realized this in the last 12 to 18 months coaching a lot of coaches, is the female market is the biggest market in fitness by a mile. Huge. And if you think about logically how women work, women are by nature, no offense to anyone watching this, emotional creatures, which is why they can be a pain in the ass. No disrespect for anyone who's watching this is female. So women are actually easier to sell to and easier to basically pull in with marketing. Women are also more likely to put their hand up when they need help. So if we look at one of the best markets is actually the menopause. Now, what do women in the menopause tend to be? Slightly older, which means that they tend to have finances. So that's a really good niche I'd look at in terms of problem solve. The other things you look at in female niches would be things like PCOS, even like thyroid, metabolic issues like Hashimoto's, if you wanted to go really complex. But I would stick to something like that. Now, if we look at male niches, the big one's going to be low testosterone as a big pain point for older guys. So that's a huge one. So we do a lot of reels and a lot of content in our own fitness business still. We give away free lead magnets to improve low testosterone. So some of the things we talk about, we do really well, and come on to this later on in terms of LinkedIn. And I'm going to break down all the platforms you can use, which one you should do. And this is going to be full in-depth masterclass. It's going to be a very long video. So you might want to watch this a couple of times to make notes. So low testosterone, what we do is we create a lot of guides to this on how to improve testosterone. And I also share a lot of stuff on my stories, on our social media, YouTube videos, podcasts, on how to do this, because this avatar has a strong pain point, and they tend to be financially strong. The other obviously big one is going to be the fat loss market. If you have no clue where to start, this is where you want to go, fat loss market. And I would go, if you're a guy, I would probably try and target men specifically. If you start to have a lot of women coming to you, then maybe the female niche is more your thing and you should try and steer to that. And if you're at the beginning of your journey, one of the things I don't like people do is like niche down too much. Because let's say I'm going to niche down and I'm going to target vegan and CrossFit women who are Muslim who live in Dubai. That's a very small people. And if I don't have that many followers, then not many people in that actually audience are going to be relevant to this thing. And then also if you think how fewer percent of your audience actually see your content, you're not going to make any money. So if you don't know where to start, I would start fat loss market, 30 to 50 years old. Think about the common pain points that people have. Now, so to give you some examples of pain points people have, it's going to be like they don't know what to eat, they don't know when to eat, they don't know how much to eat. They also don't want to sacrifice their favorite foods. They also want to be able to maybe have a glass of wine at the weekend. They don't want to be eating chicken and rice every meal. They don't want to be training in the gym 4 hours every single day. Like, this is the thing you want to be talking about in your content, is efficiency. And something you want to think about is you want to sell them the vacation, not the flight there. So you want to sell them like lying on the beach in the Maldives. You don't want to sell them the 4-hour flight to get there. And this is how you have to really think about in terms of what you're doing front end and the problem you're trying to solve to successful business. Once you've identified the problem you solve and you can solve multiple, you then want to start pushing out more content on that. And as you see success, be more specific the type of pain points that's seeing success. So one of the best things you can do, and if you hate money, don't do this. Every time a client signs up with you, look for the first message they sent you. Look for where they actually came from. Did they message you because you made a piece of content on low testosterone? Did they message you because you put out a lead magnet on the menopause? Like, what is it that they actually came to you for? Because chances are you should probably do this. And a huge thing most entrepreneurs don't understand, the biggest skill you need to have in business is pattern recognition. What's working, do more of it. Now, when we go about our hero's journey and you talking about like what you've overcome, and obviously like I'm not going to overcome the menopause, maybe I have, obviously not. PCOS I've had, Hashimoto's, less low testosterone I actually had when I was like 26, 27. So that's something I could talk about. I was also overweight, so that's something I can talk about. And this is where most people really fuck up their own hero's journey. You don't show the low parts of your life. You don't show the things that go wrong. So what I like to call these are like low to high reels. So you post like the shittest time in your life of like when you look the worst to then how you became your best. And you tell the story of that. And you can make reels of that. And this is where like the big part of you as an entrepreneur and being a content creator, which is part of this role. Like if you don't like making content, then enjoy being poor because you won't be successful online. The thing you have to think about is showing vulnerability. Because vulnerability is the big thing that actually allows people to buy into you as a person. See, Charlie's a real human being. Charlie actually has problems. Like, I've got massive issues today with our payment processor and Stripe, so I'm slightly stressed, which is why I still thought I'd make this video and it would cheer me up because I enjoy this. But the reality is you showing vulnerability and the shit stuff that happened to you and that you've overcome it actually allows other people to be like, I have that problem and he's done the thing I want to do, so therefore he can help me. And the thing you need to think about a lot is becoming the person who does the thing and then teaches the thing. And that's very much the way I've lived my life. So you get yourself in great shape or good shape for whatever your audience is. Like, you don't have to be an Olympia competitor bodybuilder. I ran a very successful fitness coaching business. I sucked at bodybuilding. I had a reason, I have an okay physique, but I'm very good at the other stuff and the other skills. And I'm not IFBB broke, like I don't have an IFBB pro card, but I've been successful in terms of this because I understand how to show my vulnerabilities, how to show my weaknesses, and how I've overcome those. Now, something that's also important to talk about in terms of content, which I think is an important thing. I mentioned showing vulnerability, but I wouldn't try and talk too much in terms of mindset. Because if you put out a lot of stuff about how to overcome a negative mindset and having mindset problems, what do you tend to attract? People with mindset issues who tend to be poor quality clients and difficult to deal with. So what you want to try and focus on is how to overcome limiting beliefs, how to overcome ceilings and growth, how to achieve peak performance. So think about what you put out there you attract. And this is where a lot of people just really screw up in terms of their content, their audience, and the way they brand themselves. Show your success. show you doing well, show some of your lifestyle, show you going on a nice holiday to Miami, show you going to Ibiza with your friends or whatever. Like, show stuff that's going to be inspiring to people, because that's showing your human journey. And one of the big things in terms of, it's an issue at the moment in fitness and content right now, everyone is too robotic. You need to put your personality across and actually show why you're different. So like for me, I like cats, I have 2 cats. I like cheesecake, I like traveling, I like golf, paddle, loads of random sports. Like, show who you are, because people will buy into that. Step number 2, the secret no one tells you. Do you want to know what that secret is? If there's any guesses, comment below before I reveal it. And this isn't something a lot of people understand. A lot of people don't realize online coaching is harder than in person. Why? Because of obscurity. People don't know you yet. People don't trust you yet, which is why we had to start with step 1 in terms of finding a problem and how do you solve it, and have you solved it yourself, because that will give you trust with an audience. And the biggest problem you have right now is probably obscurity. The biggest problem I have right now is obscurity, because the more people who know you, the more people can give you their money. And this is why it's easy in a personal training gym or in a gym, because you have a captive audience. The people who you're going to get as personal training clients are walking in the front door every day. But you're not having people walk in your front door on your Instagram every day, because you have a problem. You don't have traffic. And we're going to break down throughout this video different platforms and how to get traffic. And something you always have to think about is marketing has to come first. Without marketing, you have no one to sell. If you do not sell, you have no one to coach. You can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you can't market, you can't coach. And something I think about a lot, and a saying I like, is best known beats best. Is Apple necessarily, the iPhone, technically the best phone? Probably not. Is, for example, Lamborghini or Ferrari as an example, the best made car? Probably not. Best known beats best. So the goal is to be known, come out of obscurity, and this will help you crush it online. And I'm going to go through all the social media platforms from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok. We're not doing Pinterest because you don't need that for online coaching. If anyone does use that, comment below. But I'm going to break down each of these now and give you the positives and some hacks on each of the platforms. So first of all, we can start with the GOAT. The main account that everyone should use and platform is IG. So Instagram is probably the main platform that most people want to use and has probably the biggest audience of online coaches. Now, if we look at the pluses and the negatives of this, if we look at the pluses of Instagram, has the audience who are interested in fitness. If we look at another plus of it, it's easy to message people. The secret of what we basically teach to help you scale the business is our 4C method, which is where you create content, to create conversations, to create calls, to create clients. There's free access to that below this video, so you can check that out. And that'll show you how to do this. But basically, it's got the audience, it's easy to message people, it's easy for people to message you, so it's easy to get people into a conversation. You can go viral, but this is getting more hard. So virality, I'd probably say, is like 5 out of 10 compared to other platforms. Those are really the positives. Now if we look at the negatives. So negatives with Instagram, they get disabled a lot. I've had a lot of clients come back to me this week with having their Instagram accounts disabled, re-enabled. The other issue you tend to have is, like we had this a lot for about 10 days, messages getting blocked. So Instagram's cracking down a lot on outbound messaging and having ropey conversations. So these are big issues in terms of with Instagram, and also that it's not that easy to go viral, and there's a lot of coaches. So it's a bit of a red ocean in terms of a lot of people trying to do the same shit, which is why you need to make personal content to make you stand out. The other thing I'd also add into the positives actually of Instagram is automations and ads. So we fucking crush it on ads. And if you haven't, check out the other whiteboard video I've done on how 4 steps of how we've made millions with running Facebook ads and Instagram ads. So this is basically the big pluses for Instagram, the minuses for Instagram. Do I think everyone should use this? 100%. This is like the foundation of your house you should use. Now, the next platform I'm going to come on to is LinkedIn. And a lot of you are going to be like, why the fuck would you like LinkedIn? Why? So one of the issues we actually haven't put here is, I might put brokies. If anyone's offended by brokies, then don't watch this channel. So brokies are people who don't have money, who can't afford to sign up for your program. We might actually put this on other videos, because on some of the other channels, content platforms, because I think it's quite funny. If you don't like my humor, then you probably shouldn't watch this either. One of the issues with Instagram is you can tend to get a lot of people who don't necessarily have the financial means. You're going to get a lot of, I can't afford it, or I'm not willing to invest in actually like being the best version of myself. So if we look at LinkedIn, the positives, in my own fitness business, we try and target people who have the money to pay us. We solve rich person problems, we can charge rich person prices. So this means then you to grow a coaching business to get to $1 million a year gets a lot easier when you start charging $1,000 to $5,000 programs rather than like $150 monthly. Because what happens when you do that, and I come on to this later in the video, is you then get what's called friction of scale, where the business gets very messy. And transparently, when my coaching business got to 1,000 clients, we had that problem because it was just all over the show. Like, I'd never done this before. I was learning, right? And I didn't have anyone to teach me. I didn't have me to teach me, and you have me to teach you now. So I'm going to try and solve a lot of these problems for you. So LinkedIn, you've got execs, and they have money. So that is very, very good. You also have organic reach, which is baller. Actually, we'll add this as negative on Instagram. It has fuck all organic reach. Like for most people, like my account is goosed. If you've got a newer Instagram account, you can get more organic reach. The other positives in terms of LinkedIn is that it's almost like a compound effect of the network. So because it has organic reach, if say for example, you have a LinkedIn account, you like my post, which you do, go over and connect with me on LinkedIn. What will happen is that when you like my thing and my post, 30% roughly of your connections will also see my post. So it helps to grow my network more. So these are the big price points, the big benefits. Now on LinkedIn, we specifically only try and charge a minimum, I reckon when all of our clients do this as well, 3K programs upwards. So we sell a lot of £5,000 programs. It's like $7,000 coaching programs on LinkedIn. So you can see already how this is going to be brokies on IG who want 150 monthly. We can breeze in and close one sale at 3 to 5K. We're going to rinse them all day long in terms of the size of our business. If we look at the negatives of LinkedIn, accounts get disabled quite a lot. So that's a problem. And then if we look at in terms of other negatives, it's limited on how much messaging you can do. And they've clamped down on that a lot recently. So what this basically means, you have to understand with LinkedIn, this is a skill platform versus a volume platform. So we can't be as spammy as we are with Instagram. You have to actually learn the skill of like how to engage someone in a conversation. It's not how many messages you send, it's how many people that reply that is important. Like you can't have a conversation if I'm talking at you, you don't talk back. That's not conversation, that's me talking at you. But if they reply, we now have a conversation, which is the game. Also what we teach in the 4C method below the video. So this is a skill platform, not a volume platform. So that also means you get low calls booked, but the value of the calls is very high. So on average, what we expect, this is our like a millionaire math in terms of LinkedIn. So you book 6 calls a week, 3 show up, you close one for 3K, you make 3K a week. You do it for 4 weeks in a row, that's 12K a month straight away just from this one platform without even looking at Instagram. And this is why this is a great platform, but this isn't something you should go into as a beginner because you have to have skill to be able to get conversations to convert. And one of the big mistakes a lot of people make is they try and hire someone from a third world country who barely speaks English to speak to the most intelligent people in the world of executives, and they wonder why they don't book calls. So the next platform we're going to talk about is TikTok. Pluses of TikTok. The brilliant thing about TikTok, it's much, much easier than Instagram to go viral. That's like 10 out of 10 platform. The other thing that's great is you can spam as much content as you want. It's like, if you want to go nuclear in terms of making content, like you want to make it rain like I did with the money gun at the start of this in terms of making content, you can post like 6 to 8 times a day on TikTok. It doesn't really matter. You can also make a new TikTok account and the first post you make could get like 4 million views. Like you're not going to get that on Instagram. So that's a big benefit for this. And one of the other things is also great for content testing. So one of the things we have started to do in our own business is we're posting multiple things into TikTok and we're going to test which content performs and then we'll move them to Instagram. So that's another benefit for this. Now, if we look at the downsides of TikTok, other than being owned by the Chinese and probably stealing all your data, is that you have a lot of brokies. So generally, I would say, if someone was an executive earning lots of money, might be let me believe, they're probably not going to be on TikTok. I would say it's fair. Personally, I hate the platform. I would say that that's a massive downside, and also a lot of the audience tends to be pretty young. The beauty of that is every day they're getting older and their affordability should come up. So do I think there is an opportunity in terms of for TikTok to work well for you? Yes. So the other downside is messaging is not great on the platform either. So it makes it more difficult to try and get people booked in for calls, which is the whole goal of us trying to get away from obscurity and get people to know us. We can get them into a conversation and then we can get them into a sales call. But one of the things you can do is you can create viral content on TikTok, drive them to IG, and then you can also drive them to the next platform we'll talk about, which we're currently on, which is YouTube. So pluses of YouTube, it is the GOAT of platforms, which is why I actually really enjoy making videos, and I'm making a big effort in trying to grow our channel. So if you could kindly subscribe if you haven't and drop a like would mean a lot. Also share this video to everyone because I'm literally giving the secrets of everything here. This is better than most people's paid masterminds. The positive of YouTube, I'm making this video today and this video will still be getting views in 10 years time. If I make a viral video on Instagram or TikTok, after 4 days, no one gives a flying fuck. So this is a really important thing to understand, that YouTube has leverage. Because do you want to know something really interesting I think about? Is the reality that you post a video tomorrow, that's the lowest views it's ever going to have. It's going to keep compounding. And if you can get one video to blow off, that could then push all those people into your older videos. So this is a huge leverage platform. The other big benefit to this is it's long form. So one of the rules of getting people to trust you is you want people to absorb 7 hours of your content. Now, if we're making 60-second clips on TikTok or Instagram, or even 15 seconds, that's a lot of reels they have to watch, or a lot of Instagram stories. So the reality with this, why this works so well, it's very easy for people to see your personality. You can see that sometimes I'm humorous, that I'm articulate, I can speak properly, which hopefully you would agree with. And this is why this works so well, because you can really get people to buy into you and you can showcase your knowledge in depth. It's very difficult for me to give a huge amount of in-depth detail in a 30 to 60-second Instagram reel. So this is why YouTube works so well. And I would actually add, the biggest thing I'd add to this is you can get a real fucking tribe. If you get people who we don't know, we have like 1,100 subscribers or something at this moment, but I feel we already have a bit of a tribe cult effect. And if you guys like the videos, just keep commenting below because I'll keep making them. So this is why this is the beauty of the platform. It's also fun to make. The downside, videos are hard to make. So videos take a lot of time and it's also a lot of editing. So this video is going to make me maybe an hour to film. It took me maybe 40 minutes to plan out like what I wanted to talk about, so I wasn't just rambling on. So the videos are very difficult. It also is a long-term play. So like if you're new to online coaching or new to business, you're not gonna fucking get 1 million views on your first YouTube video. You could do on your first TikTok. There's a chance you could do on Instagram. It's unlikely, but maybe. Whereas YouTube, it takes a while to get going. So this is where it's about consistency. And something I think about all the time, success is guaranteed, but speed is not. So if you just keep turning up on YouTube and you make great content, you will be very successful. And we'll see when we watch this video back in 5 years, how many subscribers this channel has, which will be interesting. So if anyone wants a guess of how many subscribers we have in 5 years, comment below. And the closest person who gets that right, I'll give $1,000 to in 5 years' time, and you can hold me to that. Now, the last platform we're going to talk about is actually not a platform I use. So it's Snapchat. So pluses for this, it's a blue ocean. Not many people are using this as a fitness coach. The downsides, so blue ocean, it's easy to make content, easy. The downsides, I would say, in my opinion, are you have to post a lot on it. So like your equivalent of Snapchat stories. So that's time consuming, it's distracting, you lose focus. Content is important, but which is why I like YouTube. I can be all in with you for this hour in terms of giving you as much value as possible, and I don't have to be like making stories all day after that, right? The other thing is there can be a lot of brokies. So these are the big things that I would consider maybe a downside to that, but this is a good platform that if you want to go and have a look at, or if you currently use just to piss around on or send nudes to chicks or whatever you do, then no judgment here, then that could be something you to use. So if I was going to do an amalgamation of what platforms you should use, and actually one thing we could probably add on here is email. So email is not really a social media platform, but we can talk about it. So in my opinion, this is going to be opposite to what a lot of degenerate fitness business coaches will tell you, because they've never had a fitness business, is email is shit for, excuse my profanity, is not great for online marketing for fitness programs, because the one thing I'd ask you is, when was the last time you bought a product from an email? I honestly can't remember. What it is good for is you own data, omnipresence. So like if you're on my email list, you will get an email from me every single day about how to grow your business and giving you value. Downside, hard to sell, and it's time consuming. Also, the other thing a lot of people don't talk about, people talk about how brilliant emails are, but if you have 12 people on your email list and one of them is your mum and one of the other one's your sister, like, this is not a useful use of your time. And the other thing you have to think about is that for you to grow your email list, there's only really one way to do that, and that's paid ads. Now, if I was gonna run paid ads myself, what I would focus on is intent-based ad marketing, like a direct call to action to try and sell someone something, rather than non-intent to give them something to get them on my email list. Now, there's a full video which I mentioned before, which is how I make $1 million in terms of Facebook ads and fitness. Go check that out, and this will explain how you would do that more. But that's why I would say for email list, it's not something I would really focus on. If you have an email list, yeah, you use it, send an email to a week, but I wouldn't go mental with it. For me, the platforms you need to use, Instagram, 100%, that has to be done. And then probably LinkedIn's gonna be the second one when you've got some success from that. TikTok is depending on you and your personality. If you wanna do it and you like making content, TikTok can feed nicely into Instagram. TikTok can feed nicely into YouTube. If you're very good at talking and you like making videos, YouTube is a good one to do, but I would only do if your business is already successful, because what I mean by successful is making more than 20, 30K a month. Because if you start spending 3 hours making a video like I have for this, that's gonna actually distract you from the things on here, which are actually gonna make you money. Because for you to grow your fitness business, you need to do two things: book sales calls, close sales calls. And if you want to remove yourself from obscurity and know how to grow on Instagram, how to grow on all these other platforms, check below this video the 4C course. It's completely free. That has loads of ways for you to get loads of messages into your inbox and actually help grow your Instagram account, grow your TikTok account, and it works across all the platforms. So now what I'm talking about is the biggest mistakes when it comes to content. The first one is that you're scared. You don't want to push yourself out there. You don't want to put your face on the internet, and I can appreciate that. If anyone wants a laugh, look up on YouTube Charlie Johnson Fitness and look at my very first YouTube videos. I'd never realized how difficult it was to talk on camera until someone puts a camera in your face and you don't know how to talk. So I appreciate this is not easy, and long form content in particular is hard. Even I remember the first time I did a podcast, I sat on my shed in my garden in the UK talking to myself to a microphone, which was a very weird experience. So being scared is completely normal, and when you're new to doing something, it's gonna feel fucking weird. But when you get used to it, like for me, I can just switch on and I can talk on camera straight away. So this is a really common thing, and I'm gonna give you one of the secrets, the best way to overcome this in a minute. The other big problem that happens, people just don't post because they're scared. The fastest way to not get yourself where you want to be is to not post content, because the biggest problem you have right now, not enough people know who you are. So not posting content is obviously a big issue that a lot of people struggle with, and this is something you need to overcome. And if you're concerned that something's not good enough, just post it anyway. Just do it anyway and just see what happens. Because a lot of times the content that you don't think is that great, that actually sometimes does very well. The other thing, worried what you look like. This is why I'd recommend that one of the first things you should do if you're looking to scale your business is hire a video editor. You can get a video editor, you pay $5 an hour, because a lot of times, like, if you're editing the video yourself and like, oh, I don't like that angle, like my calves look skinny, don't make any calf jokes, it's like, I get PTSD about that. Or I look a bit fat, or my bum looks funny in this one. You're not gonna post the video. So worry about what you look like is a big thing, which is why I talk about why you should get a video editor to do this. Next one is worried about being judged. The best thing in life is when you're in a position that you don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. You care, but you don't really care. I care as in like, I hope you enjoy this video, but if you don't like me, I don't really care, because I'm being my authentic self and I'm doing my best to give you as much information as possible to help you change your own life. My life's great. If yours isn't great at the moment, then I'm trying to give you all the tools right now to do that. So that's why I care, because I want this to be a great video, but I don't really care either way. And that's almost a framework you need to think about. Now, the best way to overcome pretty much all of these, and this is what I did, I recommend to our clients, get on Instagram, get your phone, talk on your stories every single day. Just say something passionate, say something you believe, say something funny. And guess what you'll start to not get scared of? Talking on camera. Because the best thing about stories is that when you post on stories, they come down in 24 hours. If I screw up this video and I talk like a waffling moron, this is going to be internet in 10 years' time for people to take the piss out of me. So I'm trying not to make that happen. And the most important thing for you to do with stories is you can just talk, get used to talking on camera. And if you get some positive feedback and people being like, that's super helpful, that really helped me, that really inspired me, that changed my thought process, you really made me have a great day today, that's what you want, and that will give you that warm feeling inside of like, this is what I meant to do. So the best thing you need to do today, if you're scared about content, is just start posting and start talking on your stories. So now what I'm gonna do is gonna give you some very, very easy content tips that will help you get more traffic, get you out of obscurity, and help you make more money. So number one, face in shot. The amount of times I see a reel or Instagram post and it starts with the back of someone's head and they're doing like a row. If you put your face in shot, it will perform way better. So always try and have your face in shot. Next, use bright colors. So having bright colored clothing helps because what does it do? It stops the scroll. For women, this is easier because there's a lot more bright colored clothing that's appropriate for women. I don't wear women's clothing. But what I used to do is I used to wear a lot of like bright basketball vests because they'd really stand out and they'd pop on the Instagram feed. So if you can get bright colored clothing, that really helps. The next one, strong hook. So this is the most important part in terms of content, copy, language when you talk. It's you want to entice people in to watch. So to give an example of a shit hook would be, here's an arms reel of how I got bigger arms. That's fucking terrible. What about the secret to how I overcame having skinny arms revealed? Like, you're probably like, what's he gonna tell me? That's what you want to do, is you want to create curiosity, because curiosity is going to make people watch the content. So one of the best things you can do is have a strong hook. And one of the things we give our clients is a 100 hook playbook where you can basically plug and play the pain point in and give you different content ideas. Next is posting times. So if we actually think about, it's rather obvious, but a lot of people don't think, is posting when our audience is online and the people we want to sell are going to be on their phone. So for example, trying to sell in the evenings, or like posting in the evenings where your target market is. So if I was in the UK, I would probably post at 6 p.m. UK time because I'm going to get the UK audience when they finish work. I'm also going to get some of the East Coast US audience as well. So that's when I always would focus posting, would be 6 to 8 p.m. in the evening. Next way to grow your audience is collaborate with other people. So one of the things that works really well at the moment is interview style reels. So if you had like me and someone else here who was going to ask me questions, I could hand them the mic and they could ask me questions, and that would be a great way to have two people in shot. You can then also collaborate on that post, and that would get like traffic off both of your audiences. One of the other things you can do as well is tag other people in your stories, because that's going to help them hopefully to repost you. Like people, like if you watch this YouTube video and you take a photo and you tag this on your stories, I will repost you for doing that, and that will help you get traffic. And this is one of the best ways you can actually get your account to grow, because you're stealing traffic from other people. So I'll give you some of mine if you reshare that you enjoyed this video. And this is one of the quickest ways I grew my account, because even I would go, every gym I'd go to, I'd take a story, I'd tag the gym. When I go to a fancy restaurant, I would take a photo, a video, I'd tag the restaurant, they share it. And like, this is actually one of the hacks of how you get more higher paying clients. If you go to where they are, you make content there, the place that runs it then shares your content, you'll then get marketed to those people. The other thing is going to be posting frequency. So the minimum, I actually would say I posted probably 3 times a day for probably about 4 or 5 years. My Instagram, I think, has about 7,000 Instagram posts. We now only post once per day, but we're going to go back up to twice. Reality is I would just focus on posting minimum once a day, maybe the reel. And if you have something else you want to throw up, then throw it up. Generally more is better, but I would probably max it at 2 to 3 posts every single day. And consistency is key here. And the last thing you want to think about, if you want to make millions from your phone for your business, think about this. Get the latest iPhone 15 Pro. The camera is wild. If you're going to make millions from this phone, spending $1,000 on the best version is probably a good idea. So that would be something I would do, is get best iPhone. Now you don't need the best fucking camera equipment in terms of like an $8,000 DSLR camera. Like if you actually had an iPhone 15, they're so good, it's almost as good as the DSLR camera I'm shooting this on, probably if not better, and easier to use. This will help you in terms of making better content, your stories look better, photos look better, and you'll be better at marketing. Step number 3, sales. Now, we've gone through marketing, we now have people coming to us, we now know how to sell. The quickest way for you to be poor is not to understand that you actually have to sell people for them to join your program. And the second way to also stay poor in your business, not to be successful, is also to understand that you doing like low ticket, cheap prices is literally the fastest way to ruin your business. So like this, we want to put a big fucking line through. Like that you want to stop doing. And transparently, I started my fitness business with something called Shredinate. If you Google it, you can probably still find it. You can still sign up. It's £47 a month. And I was getting 1,000 people around into that program. I thought I was balling and I was Billy Big Shit at the time because I was making decent money. But the reality is, I had a client who signed up for the £47 a month thing, who I then sold for £9,000 for a 1-year coaching program with me. 9,000 versus 47 a month. So when I clocked that, I was like, well, it's just easier to get people to pay me more and have less clients. And also the people who pay the most are actually easier to deal with, and people who pay the least are the biggest problem. So this is why you want to avoid low ticket. And something else I would also think about is like, the only reason you won't charge higher price points is you won't ask. You have to ask the question, and you actually have to be willing to get some rejections and some no's. And if you have a sales closing percentage over 70 to 80%, that's actually too high and it's damaging your business because it's too easy for you to sell. You actually really want to be like 50 to 60%, like if you have a decent price, because that shows you're probably in the ballpark where it's a bit of a questionable thing that you're trying pushing your audience for. The other thing I think about as well is like, you want to be a high ticket coach, then you also have to be willing to invest in yourself. So something I heard that really resonated with me is that you will only invest and spend money in yourself to a value that you're also willing to sell, which I thought was really, really interesting. So if you're trying to sell a fitness program for 3K, 5K, whatever it is, but you wouldn't be willing to spend that money and invest it in yourself, then you're also not congruent in like the person who you're trying to be. And that will also come across in your conviction sales calls. Like I pitched someone $100,000 for a coaching program to work with me. They didn't sign up. But the reality is that I had the conviction that I'm willing to do that because I spent $250,000 on my own education. So if you're a high ticket coach and you're not willing to invest in yourself, that's a fool's errand. And this is one of the quickest ways you're going to come unstuck, because coaching is the quickest way for you to be successful. Now, what I'm going to reveal to you now is the biggest sales mistake that everyone makes, including our own team. And I have to hammer them on this. And that big mistake is selling on features. No one gives a shit of like what app you use. No one cares what special group or community you have. No one cares. So stop selling on features and stop selling on benefits. Like this doesn't matter. No one cares. What you want to do is you want to sell on the most important things to human beings that makes us human. Sell on emotion. So how do we do this? So I did a big training at our last mastermind event in Dubai on this, and what we did that was really, really important is to break down the understanding of different types of people. So I'll give a couple examples. Imagine you have a lady who comes to you who wants coaching, who's between 30 to 35, she's single, she hasn't got any children, and she's slightly out of shape. What do you think is the biggest driving force in her life at that time to get in shape? Answer on a postcard. She probably wants to get in shape to attract the partner that she wants so she can have her kids and have a family and settle down. Because the reality is she knows her biological clock is ticking. Same thing is for a guy. If a guy's 30 and he's single and he's out of shape, the biggest driver that men have, and like one of the biggest drivers I have, is I'm really excited to have a family one day and have children. So for me, if I was single and I didn't have a partner, that would be one of my big drivers. I want to get in shape to then be able to procreate and then have children and have a family. So we want to identify what this emotional need is for clients. And one of the best ways to do this is to ask them like, okay, so just out of curiosity, Charlie, you're single, right? And it's like, yeah. And you haven't got any kids? No. So is that something you want in the next couple of years? Yeah, of course, 100%. Then is getting in shape one of the reasons why, is one of the reasons why you want to get in shape to try and find like the woman of your dreams, like your future wife, to then have those children? That's a great question to ask. And that's how you start to sell on emotion, because you start to understand the individual you're talking to, which is a really, really important thing that's going to make this a completely different conversation rather than selling on what app you're using and macros and calories. Because people don't care about that. People just want the end result of the emotion. And one of the best ways you can do this, what do I mean by name? So if someone already has a partner, has kids, like say if I ask you sit behind this camera, I asked you and say your name was Joe, have you got a partner? Yeah. Oh, okay, awesome. What's your partner's name, Joe? Oh, it's called Marie. Cool. Oh, awesome. So what I would do, I would write Marie's name down. And it's like, have you got any kids, Joe? Yeah, I've got one, his name's James. Awesome, James, so I write that down. And then what you do is you start to use their names during the conversation. So, interesting, like later on in the conversation, you can be like, Joe, interestingly, it's one of the reasons you want to get in shape because like you mentioned yourself, you're a bit overweight at the moment, that James has someone who he can really look up to. Because like, as a father, that's something I would definitely want. And this is the different type of conversation where you start to sell an emotion and you start to use people's names, because who uses names? The trusted family doctor, family, friends. So you're reducing sales resistance and you also understand their emotional needs. Now, one of the things we also need to think about when it comes to sales, once we start to integrate some of these things, is you constantly need to practice and train. So in seven-figure scaling systems, one of the reasons we have so much success with clients is because we focus on this very heavily. Clients can submit sales call recordings, they get reviewed by a head of sales, Jack, and he will do one-to-one training with them. Then we also have 2 group training sales calls a week with one of the best trainers in the world, Joe Marcuse. And the better you get at sales, the easier of all this gets. Because if you get great at sales, you can charge high prices and you can close most of your leads, you will crush it. So this is one of the #1 skills you have to have dialed in. Now, when people get stuck on sales calls, one of the big things that happens is they go, I need to think about it. Now, there's only 4 objections you can ever have when it comes to think about it. And these are finances. And actually, I'd say I think about it as often a smokescreen, because they're just sometimes trying to get you off the call. So you have to try to see if they're just trying to fob you off, or there is also a problem. So we're trying to break these down. So we're gonna have finances, we can have spouse, we're gonna have self-belief, and then we're gonna have time. So these are the only 4 objections you're gonna ever have. So the goal actually in a sales call is to start to address some of these as you go through the call. So let's say Joe was behind the camera again. Joe, have you got a partner? No. Okay, bang, spouse is out of the game. And then you go through a conversation like, Joe, you've achieved a lot of things in your life. I don't feel like you lack self-belief, no? And he'd be like, no, I'm really confident in myself. Cool. Self-belief is off the fucking table. And then he'd be like, so with your schedule at work, like how much do you work at the moment? I know you run a big bank and you're the CEO. He's like, oh no, I've actually got loads of time. I play golf like 4 times a week. Cool, time's off the table. So then we know at the end of the call, if there's any objections you could have, the only one is going to be related to this, finances. So then we just know that this is the thing we need to handle at the end. If he's unsure in terms of the pricing, like what would work for you? And this is a really easy framework of how to try and avoid having objections come at the end of the call. And I would literally write down and like tick these off as you go through the sales call. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about in terms of helping you convert more sales is a really important skill. Same that helps in content, storytelling. So tell your own stories in terms of how you overcame the problem the person has. And the second thing is talk about one of your clients who's overcame the same thing. If you can show that on the screen at the same time, that's really, really easy, because then what you're doing, you're connecting the prospect's head of how Danny Bresso, my client on screen right now, how, for example, he went from being a slightly overweight executive to jacked and shredded by working with our metabolic priming diet in our fitness business. And then he'd be like, well, I'm an executive as well, same age as Danny, who's 42. If he can do it, then surely I can do it. And this is a goal, is connecting the dots on the call for you. Now, if you're interested in terms of books for reading more about sales, my favorite book in terms of this is probably slightly cliche, is The Wolf of Wall Street by Jordan Belfort. I took a lot of value and it talks about the straight line selling system. So that is a really good book on sales I would listen to. Step 4, we're looking to get to $1 million a year coaching business in 12 months. You cannot do this on your own, you are going to require a team. So I already mentioned in the video earlier, you need to get a video editor. There's some other key things you're going to need to do in here, which I'm going to break down through almost like an organizational chart, who I would hire, when, and exactly how much I would pay these people. So when we start with you as a CEO, the first thing we need is marketing. So the first thing I do is I would hire an editor. Now, I would hire them for $5 an hour, and I would look on somewhere like Upwork, Facebook groups, Fiverr. That's where you go find editors. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward. If you can't figure that out, then you should be running a business. The second thing I would do, once you start getting some success with your business, you start getting some clients, is the #1 mistake where most people get fucked and they get stuck, is they get stuck in fulfillment, coaching too many clients. So probably once you start getting over like probably 8 to 10K a month, I would then start to hire coaches. Now, when it comes to hiring coaches, it looks like coaches, but coaches, What I would do is I would look for someone, ideally a couple of different scenarios. One, who's a previous client, who's a success story. That's always a good option because they understand how you work. Second thing you could do is post on your social media stories, on your social media saying you're expanding, you're looking for someone to join the team. Third thing is I have a recruitment company we use who helps find us coaches. So if anyone needs access to that, if you drop me a message on Instagram, I can share their details. So once we have prospect who is said coach who is going to help you get clients in great shape, how do we pay this person? So we pay £40 per client per month. Now you might be like, Charlie, that's ridiculously low. Well, what you want to understand here is you need to have an 80% margin on coaching. So make sure you can scale the business. This is really, really important. It's an 80% profit margin. So if a coach was going to, if you were selling a fitness program, let's say for Easymatic was £100, the coach would get paid £20. So if then, for example, it was £200, the coach would get £40. So £40 per client per month. We also give them bonuses if they get transformations and referrals and some other stuff like that. But that's a base thesis. Now, the understanding for this is that it doesn't actually take that long to do client check-ins. It's not going to take them an hour to do a check-in. You should have easy systems in your business that check-in should take 5 to 10 minutes. So someone's getting paid 5 to 10 minutes. They're basically getting £1 a minute almost at that rate. So this is a really good rate. And if you think about it, if you get a coach to say 50 clients, they're then going to earn £2,000 a month. And that's basically as a part-time job. If someone offered me 100 clients when I was 21, I was making £4,000 a month, I'd be the happiest dude in the world. I would have the most chilled lifestyle in the world. Sometimes I think I'd even take that now. So I'm not coaching for anyone. But so that's something I would definitely do 100%. Now, the next place you want to be hiring after you've got the coaches, you've got the editor, maybe even before the coaches, actually I probably would do that, is I'd hire a virtual assistant, so a VA. So again, we pay these $5 an hour. Now, what does the VA do? So we use the VA to do outbound messaging. So the thesis in terms of what we want to get this organization operation to do is book calls is a primary thing. And you are going to be the person closing the calls at the beginning, which we'll come on to. So we're trying to get this system that's going to book calls. So we've got the editor who can help you make content. You could also get the editor to maybe post the content. That's a whole other subject. I can make another video on how to do that. You can have coaches who can start to take some of the fulfillment off of you. You're going to VA who's going to do the outbound messaging. You can also get virtual assistants who can then help with some of the admin bullshit. So you should not be doing admin. Now, one of the best things you can do is work out what your hourly rate is. The easiest way to do this is to work out how much profit you made last year, divide it by how many hours you worked, and that will give you your hourly rate. Anything that's 50% of that, you want to delegate to someone else. So like $5 an hour task, $5 an hour task, you know, like there's probably a $5 an hour task when you break it down. So that's the base thesis in terms of what you basically need to scale from here. Now, to then get to the point where you can do $1 million in a year, it's going to be what, 83,000 a month. You basically just need to do more of this. Like you could potentially go into paid ads. So you could have a media buyer. And this is not something I would recommend you generally do. I have tried 4 or 5 ads companies and it never works. The best thing you can do is actually learn paid ads yourself. I filmed a whole nother video that's 24 minutes long on ad strategy, so go and watch that. But this could be something you could do, but I would suggest you learn this yourself. And this is basically a thesis that will get you to 20, 30K a month. Now, what happens when you get to 40, 50K a month is you start to get too good at booking calls, which is a great problem, and you can't take them yourself. So then the last thing we need to complete the jigsaw of how to get to $1 million team is a closer. Now, how do you pay a sales closer? So what we pay, and what I recommend, is 10% commission. And that's commission only, and that's literally what's closed. So if someone closed a $1,000 sales call, they would get $100 commission. And your goal is to then feed the closer sales call so they can then close for you. Now, this can be an expensive thing because they are going to not close calls that you would close. And for anyone who has a sales team, like you will feel like you want to put the gun in your mouth and pull the trigger when you listen to a call, you're like, fuck, I had to close that, because you'll feel like throwing money away. But this is one of the things that can also get your freedom back. I have 2 sales teams now selling for 2 businesses that gives me the freedom to spend over an hour to make this video for you today. Now, this is basically the blueprint that will get you to $1 million. And you just add more coaches, you add more VAs, you add more editors. You shouldn't really need a second closer because you should take some calls still yourself and the closer can take some. So this is a blueprint in terms of team you need to get to $1 million a month. Very, very simple. Now, I'm going to talk about some hiring mistakes. Now, one of the best books in terms of business is working backwards about the story of Amazon. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I think they went from like 800 employees to like 4,000 in 1 year, which is wild. I struggle with the 47 we have for my skill set of an entrepreneur right now. Now, what's important to understand is that as this business basically grows, you're gonna have to hire more people and it gets more operationally complex. And the biggest mistake I made, it cost me $80,000. I hired a tech guy to come work with us, and this was a huge cock up. And I thought he was great on the sales call, I said there, on the interview, because he sold me. And you have to remember on interviews that the person being interviewed is selling you on themselves. They want your money and they want the job. So what I then did after I interviewed him, I told the rest of my team who were then gonna interview him how fucking great they were, and this guy was, and because I said he was great, they all believed it. Because Charlie said he's great, he must be great. Like he's the boss, like he must be right. I was horribly wrong. That was probably the biggest hiring mistake I've ever made. So an expression I like to think about is hire slow and fire fast. If someone starts badly, like dump them, get rid of them straight away. Because the biggest cost you can have in your business is hiring the wrong person, because that can set you back 6 months to undo, which is huge. Now, the last thing to talk about hiring is actually hiring a mentor. Having spent over $250,000 on mentors myself, coaching, self-development, I am the biggest advocate of being mentored and having a mentor. Like I spent $12,000 last weekend on a mentor. Like I have a speaking coach, I have a paddle coach, I have a golf coach, I have a personal trainer, I have an online coach, I have a business coach, I have a coach for pretty much every area of my life. I have a Spanish coach because I'm trying to get better in skills. And this is why you need mentors. Now, if you're looking for a mentor in terms of growing your business, the most important thing I think about is this. Has the person done the thing I want to do? Yes or no? If the answer is no, that person shouldn't coach you. And this is the biggest joke in this industry right now. There's people who are trying to teach you how to grow an online coaching business who have never had an online coach business or don't still have an online coaching business. They're trying to teach you from what worked in 2020, and the landscape is changing so fast, like month on month. You have to stay ahead of the curve, which is what we do with our own fitness business, which is why it's easy for me to teach clients. So one of the things I always look for, has the person done the thing? If it's no, then they're not going to be a good option. The second thing, if they tick this, we're good, they've done the thing. Have they got other people to do it? If the answer is yes, like for example, one of our clients, Dave Kennedy, 2 days ago hit his first €100,000 a month, which is wild. Pretty much all organically as well. Like if he's helped other people do the thing, the only reason, if he's done it, others have done it, the only reason it won't work is you. So that's really the framework it comes to in terms of actually hiring a mentor and finding someone to help you. And if you want help from us, this isn't a plug, it's the honest truth. No one can help you better in this world than we can in terms of growing a fitness business. Because I actually have done it, I still have the business, and we're helping other people do it. And if you want help with that, there's a link below this video, you can book a call, and like we don't sell you anything, we basically coach you on the call, and then we'll basically show you how people like Dave and other people are crushing it. Now, let's get into the next step. Step number 5, this is the most important part, becoming the person you can actually make $1 million a year. Because if you're not that person right now, you're gonna need to change. And the way I like to think about this is becoming the person who doesn't sleep in, who makes the video content, who posts the thing, has the awkward conversation with a client. And this all comes down to self-development and mindset and the way you look upon problems, which you can also be helped with coaching. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you exactly what my daily routine looked like when I was building my business and the most successful period of my life, which literally changed my entire trajectory. And I'm gonna give you the secrets of that now. So what did my day look like? This was probably 2020, just after COVID, and I was getting up early and I was grinding super hard. I was building the websites, I was running ads, I was coaching hundreds of fitness clients, running a team, doing all this crazy shit. So what did I do? I got up at 5 a.m. People say they don't have time, you make time. So from 5 a.m. to probably like say 7:30, I was doing what's called deep work. And this is how you want to structure your day. Is you want to do working on the business first. So in this period of time, I was working on building funnels, I was writing copy, building the tech shit. I did all this stuff myself. So probably from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. 7:30 a.m. I did that. I would then probably eat. I would then work again from probably, this would probably be content, 8 a.m. till probably 9. And then what I would do, being a fitness coach, what's really important is training, getting jacked. So the more jacked you are and the better shape you are, the more money you make. So I would train about 9:30. And what would I do in this drive to the gym? So this drive here, I would learn. and I learned via podcasts. So I binged podcasts. Like if you haven't, check out, like obviously all our podcasts and YouTube videos here, check out our Physically Jacked podcast. I would literally just, like it was like a university on wheels. So I focused on learning. From 9:30 a.m, then what did I do? I would train probably till maybe like, I don't know, like 12:30. I like training at the time a lot more. And then at 1 p.m, I would get back home and I'd work. Now, what would I do from probably 1 till 8 p.m. in the evening is work in the business. So it would be things like coaching. It would be making content. It would be calls, sales calls. So the most important thing you want to think about is this. Work on the business in the morning, building stuff, and then work in the business later on. So precisely probably what I would do, work on the business, eat, train. After training, I would then film content because I'd be hyped up, I'd have energy, like your dopamine's high. I'd then go into like sales calls, team calls, hiring people, all that other shit. And this is basically the framework in terms of me, which is a perfect blueprint. And now I'm in Dubai, like my routine is very similar. This is back when I worked in my little shed in my office in the UK. And transparently, that shed had no heating and no air conditioning. So it was like -4 in the winter and like 1,000 degrees in the summer. So it was not fun, but it was cool when I think back about it. So this is the routine I basically had. And it's very similar now. I don't get up at 5, I maybe up at 6. I work to probably 8:30. I will then go, I train fasted now. So I'll train at 9:30, I train till a lot less, to maybe 11, and then I work till probably 3 o'clock, and then I take calls from 3 till 7 p.m. So this is really a framework, and I would also work on the weekend. So if you want to be more successful, if you work every day, even the small chunks, you will get further a lot faster. Now, there's a couple of key things in becoming the man who can have $1 million business. 1, be in shape. Be the fucking hero of the journey. So you listen to this right now, become the greatest version of you, and people will want to follow you. Become the leader. I was never that person as a child. I was never that person as a young adult, but I grew into that person by consistency and taking action every single day. So the way you get to be in shape, you get to become a top 1% man, is you become very consistent and you do the things you don't want to do, but you just do them anyway. And the reality is the best trainers, the people who make the most, look the best. There's congruency with that. And if you're an online coach who doesn't have an online coach, this is probably something that's also holding you back. I've had an online coach and a fitness coach for the last 7 years, maybe 8 years. The whole time I was an online coach. So the fallacy that you're a coach and you don't need a coach is one of the things that's probably going to hold you back. It also helps to take some decision fatigue off of you, and you can just delegate to someone else and they can tell you what to do. Now, this is the thing that's going to probably change your perspective of everything. The thing you have to understand as well, and it's going to come, is you have to do this. If you want to be a 1% man, you want to have $1 million business, you have to be willing to work, no reward. You have to be willing to work, no reward. You have to be willing to work again, nothing happens. You have to be willing to keep working, nothing happens. And then what happens? Woo! Overnight success. Things just happen like that blink of an eye. I mentioned earlier Dave Kennedy, whose business did his first €100,000 a month. He blew up this month and went from 40, 50K to 100 because he was grinding, bang, it happens. So one of the reasons people aren't successful is because they're not willing to persist and keep taking the right actions. And you have to enjoy the process and just keep doing it, knowing that you will get there eventually, because persistence breaks resistance. The next thing I'm talking about is a huge problem in the whole of society, and it's this. It's dopamine. And it's an addiction to dopamine. You're addicted to checking Slack for payments. You're addicted to looking at Instagram. You're addicted to looking at cat videos on TikTok. You're addicted for looking for WhatsApp. Like you watching this, you might do that app roulette where you go from like Slack to email to Facebook to Instagram, but looking for something to do. That is not a positive place for you to be. And this is where you're addicted to dopamine. So one of the best things you can do is you can get an app, which I use, which is called Opal. And you can block yourself using certain apps on your phone. One of the best things you can also do is try and have as little time on your phone as possible every day, because at a certain point, it's very easy to get distracted. I'll give an example. Last night I said to my partner, Charlie, I was gonna go to message someone on Slack something, and I went into Slack, I saw a message, and I forgot what I was going on there to message someone about. And this is how your brain is getting warped, because you get triggered and pulled in directions. Your thoughts aren't really your own thoughts, and for you to make $1 million a year, you have to be able to focus. Now, the last thing I'm going to share with you in this entire video is probably the most important. So you're going to want to add this to your calendar right now and also write this down. And that is plan tomorrow today. So plan tomorrow today. Now, what does that mean? At a set time every day in my diary, I have a block where I will sit down and plan the tasks I have to do tomorrow. What meetings do I have? What content do I need to film? Have I got all the resources I need? Are all the calls confirmed? Is tomorrow set up successfully? This is the biggest thing that will change your life. In particular, when you talk about doing the deep work and seeing the success you want of actually working on the business. If you have it planned out methodically, planning tomorrow today, your life will become less stressful, you become more successful, and you'll become a top 1% man with a business that makes $1 million a year in coaching. Now, this is a wrap on the 5 steps in terms of you to get to $1 million coaching business in 12 months. Now, the biggest thing I can ask you from this, I've literally poured my heart and soul to give you everything here in terms of knowledge. Any more questions of anything you want to know, want videos made about, drop in the comments below. The only ask I'm gonna ask for you, I'm not gonna ask you to sign up for our programs. If you wanna do that, that's great, but I don't really care. Subscribe to the channel and share this with someone whose life it can change. Because if you execute on the information on this video, you will grow a wildly successful fitness business. The only reason you won't be successful is if you don't take action on this video. So go back through it, take notes. Any questions you have, drop in the comments. I will personally answer, and goodbye.